Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey, all 30 teams and soon to be 31 teams. And last night was a big night in the NHL for a very positive reason and for a very negative reason. And first we're going to talk about the positive reason, and that has to do with the Edmonton Oilers. They made the playoffs. Woo! Officially for the first time in 11 years or something crazy, since 2006.
Yeah.
And that's that even if you're not an Edmonton fan, to see a team do that, because I think they had the longest streak of missing the playoffs in the league, to see a team do that is pretty exciting. So I think there's going to be a lot of people watching Edmonton in the playoffs. And of course, we have, this guy that plays on the team, number 97, that good guy, McDavid. So I'm sure a lot of people want to see him as well. Mm-hmm. So Justin has a few stats here, and so I'll toss it over to him, and he can enlighten us.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research, just kind of draw up a few stats here to kind of hammer it home, how long it's been since the Edmonton Oilers were in the playoffs and what all has happened with that franchise in the last decade. And it's kind of sad for the fans, they go all the way to the Cup final. From there forward, it's been 10 solid years of not making the playoffs. Ouch, that hurts. So in that time frame, the Edmonton Oilers have had 4 first overall picks in those 10 years. That's a lot of first overall picks. Taylor Hall in 2010, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in 2011, Nail Yakupov in 2012. So 3 years in a row they had the first overall pick, and I remember being furious over that. Yep. Connor McDavid in 2015, and he's the guy out of those 4 that was, sadly, sorry, other guys, is just leaps and bounds, above the others for franchise player, and he's going to be the player of this generation right now. In total, they had 13 first-round picks in those 10 years. They went through 7 head coaches, 159 individual players, and 8 goaltenders.
8 goaltenders and 7 coaches in roughly 10 or so years.
Yeah. Wow. And to me, now, if I had to center around, okay, why did Edmonton miss the playoffs for this long a duration? And it's 100% on management, or what I would like to call the Edmonton Oilers management over that time span, the old cronies club. You had Lowe in there, you had McTavish in there, always talking about the core. All right. The last guy to play in the NHL without a helmet, Craig McTavish. They really floundered some golden opportunities here with these first overall picks and the amount of first round picks. They weren't able to build a playoff contending team. And to me, that's 1, poor scouting, 2, terrible management. And that's the reason why the Edmonton Oilers have not been in the playoffs for as long as they have. But they've since rectified that, and they're back in the playoffs, baby.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Excuse me. Yep. So you mentioned Kevin Lowe.
Yep.
And I know that you're not a fan of Kevin Lowe.
Oh, God, I hate Kevin Lowe. He's a guy, okay, yeah, he had a very successful career. And I say that because, he was part of the dynasty years with the Oilers. He has a few Stanley Cups and so on. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can translate from player to management and be successful in that role. It doesn't mean it at all. And he's a prime example of player to management that was just a terrible idea. He still has ties with the Oilers, but luckily he's away from the big decisions, that can really affect the franchise. And just for another interesting tidbit, Connor McDavid was 9 years old when the Oilers last made the playoffs. So, that speaks volumes. He's 20 years old now, so.
That's interesting. So good for Connor McDavid, good for the Edmonton Oilers, and more importantly, good for the Edmonton Oilers fans. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see them in the playoffs. We don't know who they're going to play yet. Possibly
I think it's going to be either Anaheim or San Jose, just because the top 3 right now are so close in that division.
Exactly.
If I had to guess,
it could be a good series. It could be an unfortunate series. I don't think anyone would want to see them get swept.
No,
I want to see them have success after so long of missing the playoffs. I don't want to make any predictions because I don't know who they're going to play yet. So I'll just leave it at that. So next on the list here is these guys, the Detroit Red Wings. And we were thinking about doing 2 separate videos for these, but we decided to combine them into one since they both of the big news happened last night for both these teams, and so we just thought we'd make a video and cover both topics. So the Detroit Red Wings have officially missed the playoffs for the first time in 25 years, I think, since 1991 or something crazy like that. So that's really, really unfortunate. And I did make a video about this a very long time ago when I first started the channel, and it's crazy to think like it's been that long. And I think that's a sports hit record, and any like across all sports. I think that's a record, and for postseason appearances in a row. So. I don't think you're a big Red Wings fan, really, and I'm not much of a big Red Wings fan. But as hockey fans, to see a team miss the playoffs for the first time in 25 years is, it sucks. You don't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the Detroit franchise a lot. They've had a lot of Hall of Fame talent go through that organization. And the 25-year streak is testament to how good their scouting is, their drafting, as well as their management that's in place, because they've been able to constantly produce a playoff contending team for 25 solid years. That is incredible. And even though they did become officially eliminated last night from the playoffs, I think the whole hockey world kind of gave them a standing ovation, just because of the respect level for that organization and what they achieved for 25 solid years. It's incredible. And I think everybody in that organization should be holding their heads up high, even though that they're out of the playoffs. But I mean, that's something to be very proud of.
Absolutely. And Detroit's not on this downward slope. They might miss the playoffs this year, but they still have a solid young lineup. They've got Dylan Larkin and Anastasiou and Mantha, and Mrazek is actually, I don't know how old Mrazek is, and maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't think he's too old, but they still have a young group of guys to build around, and I don't want to say 100%, but I will predict that Detroit will be back in the playoffs next year. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see it happening too. A lot of people kind of point fingers as to why Detroit may have missed this year, and a lot of people say age is a big factor. But for me, I found the team, even though they did make the playoffs after he retired, I found they were never the same after Lidstrom, hung up the skates and moved on. He was the real centerpiece of that franchise after the Steve Yzerman years, and now it's on to Zetterberg. But, I think back to 2008 and 9 when they battled the Penguins both years in the Cup final. That was some of the best hockey I ever watched in my life. And that was, to me, a true testament to how great the Detroit franchise is. And, next up for them, their primary focus, in my opinion, will be looking at the draft this year, years to come, in order to make their franchise a little younger, because a lot of their key players are really starting to age, unfortunately, for them.
Yeah, so. And just quickly, I wrote down a couple of the subscribers or a couple of people commenting their usernames and who they cheer for if they've said that. So I think we have one Detroit fan watching, Sean Slat, 384 SMS. If I'm saying that right. I think he is the only Detroit fan we have so far. Maybe, I'm sure there's more, but he's the only one that I could see that has publicly said that he was a Detroit fan. So sorry, your team's not going to make the playoffs. That sucks, but I'm sure you're pretty happy with the core they have in place, and that pretty much wraps up the news for those two teams. And we're approaching the postseason very quickly, and there's going to be so much stuff to talk about.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time for the NHL, for the fans, and especially for us in this channel. So we hope that we see you in the upcoming videos, and if this is your first video, you hit the subscribe button and join us here. Leave a comment, positively or negatively, however you feel. Do it respectfully and constructively. At the end of the day, we're all hockey fans, so we should be at least a little bit of friends. So thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Adios.